My name is Rowlands and I'm a nutritional balancing practitioner. I'm out in Sheffield at the moment at the beautiful botanical gardens, just doing a little bit of work, doing some videos. And in this video, I want to talk a little bit about EMF sensitivity and overcoming EMF sensitivity, because I've realised that I've not really come across many people that have had EMF sensitivity and now I've overcome it. I know it's a bit of a weird kind of thing to talk about because you never really overcome EMF sensitivity in a sense, because EMFs are always going to be damaging for the body. But obviously there's many people in the world that don't feel EMFs, and it's obviously good to be in a position where your body doesn't feel EMF sensitivity anymore. But I've realised that not many people get to that stage. I had extreme EMF sensitivity. If you want to kind of know a bit more about my background and stuff, check out some of my videos on the channel. If you type in Lewis Rowlands EMF, I'm sure there's going to be more videos come up that I've done in the past. But what I found is that healing EMF sensitivity is really complex, and it's very specific. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why a lot of people have not actually will say healed themselves. So I've got 5 points here that I feel are the main reasons why people struggle to do that, and hopefully it will enlighten you a little bit on maybe some of the reasons why you're struggling to find healing on your own journey. These 5 points actually go for quite a similar to a lot of other symptoms people get, because people are having a lot more difficulty healing today, and there are some reasons why, so hopefully I'm going to go into them a little bit in this video. So the first one is more specific to EMF, and one of the biggest problems people have is people don't understand how to properly protect themselves. Now, some simple points on that are, we've got high frequencies, so we've got things like Wi-Fi, D-Tech phones, 4G, 5G, which are the high frequencies, which most people know about, but it's understanding how you specifically protect yourself from them. So it's more to do with building Faraday cages, and then you've got the other end of the spectrum, which not so many people understand, which is more to do with low EMFs, and you've got to understand the need for grounding, and other factors involved. So some common pitfalls is, for example, a lot of people will feel that a ground mat is really good to use in the house, but what they'll do is they'll have a ground mat in their bedroom or in their living room, and they don't realise that they've got loads of EMF surrounding them, and by them standing on a ground mat, it allows all the EMFs to use them as basically the ground. So it's counterproductive. A lot of people, for example, have metal have like a Faraday cage around their bed, which only blocks out high frequencies and not low frequencies, and so they've got low frequencies coming in, they don't even realise it, and then they might have like metal springs in their mattress which is amplifying the low EMF frequencies. Other people are unaware of the harmonics people get in houses, in house wiring. So I'm sure you're starting to realise now it's a bit of a minefield to kind of navigate your way through what you actually need to do to protect yourself from EMF sensitivity, and it's one of the first points is kind of really getting down and speaking to a practitioner like me, maybe to just give you some advice on how the frequencies work and what you actually need to do to protect yourself. Another important factor is people don't realise some of the causes of EMF frequency, and from my experience and my experience with clients and seeing other people is that one of the main reasons why people are sensitive to EMFs is that they have heavy metal toxicity and chemical toxicity. Mainly heavy metal toxicity, and mainly the metals that are conductive. So things like copper is a really big one for EMF sufferers. When I do hair mineral analysis tests, every client that I speak to that have got EMF toxicity also has a severe copper imbalance. Copper acts as an antennae and just amplifies the EMFs. The same with metals like aluminium. Unfortunately, aluminium is rife today. I have not actually seen a hair test with someone who doesn't have aluminium toxicity. It is everywhere in the environment. and it's a major cause. So people don't understand some of the causes of EMF sensitivity. Other causes are poor calcium metabolism, so sometimes on hair tests we'll see the calcium level is through the roof. Other things is cell permeability, so the cells are too hard, mainly due to bad calcium metabolism, and this kind of causes EMF sensitivity as well. Now for the kind of rare few that realise that it's detox that's the problem, so this is the third point, they're doing incorrect detox methods. So they'll do things like juicing, for example, which is not good today. They'll do things like Kundalini meditation, which we find is not good today, and this relates on to the fourth point. They'll do things like fasting, which is not good for today. They'll do things like chlorella and spirulina, which sound good because they're a heavy metal detox chelator, but in reality it has heavy metals within it, and it unbalances minerals even further. So all these things people are not aware of. You've got to do the correct detox methods, and the reason why these things aren't working in reality, it's not that they're necessarily bad. It brings us on to our fourth point, which is one of the most important things people need to realise in order to heal today. And basically it's understanding the idea of balance. Now in Chinese medicine they use yin and yang to talk about balance. They talk about balance in Ayurveda, major holistic therapies talk about the balance of positive and negative. So in what I do in nutritional balancing, I just use the words yin and yang. It's just easy to talk about it. Now, something quite interesting has happened in the 21st century, and it's caused many of our bodies to just become too yin. So an example of that is heavy metals by nature are more yang, are more kind of grounding energy. So yin is expanding, it's cold, it's chaotic, right brain, left brain. Yang, it's hotter, it's denser, it's more grounding. So fruit, for example, is yin, and root vegetables are yang. So you understand kind of the differences, like heat, fire, saunas are more yang, and things like cold and kind of juicing, it's watery, it's more yin. Now our bodies today unfortunately are super yin, so you've got like heavy metals which are yang, but when they go into the body they cause chaos, so it becomes really yin. Things like stress is very yin, and people's diets today are super yin, so sugar is really yin. A lot of people have got like a victim mentality, is really yin. EMF is super yin, it's causing everyone's bodies to become really yin. And what we need to do in order to heal ourselves is to become more yang. So some of the methods I spoke about in point 3, like juicing and fasting and Kundalini yoga, meditation and yoga, they may have been good 100, 200, 300 years ago when the earth and everything was in a much yang state. We had more yang diets, we had more yang mentalities, life was much slower. Maybe they worked much better back then, but now adding yin upon yin equals more yin, and it gets too unbalanced. So you could talk about positive, negative energy, so it's just too, if yin's positive, yang's negative, it's too positive, it's 2 to 2, it's too chaotic. And this is one of the main ways of overcoming EMF sensitivity, is realising that our bodies are super yin, and what we really need to do is we need to become more yang. So things like root vegetables is more yang, meat is yang, sauna therapy is yang, being out in the sun is yang, being connected to the ground is yang. A lot of people today eat sugar, which is too yin, fruit, unfortunately, and again this is another confusion. Fruit is technically, obviously we all know fruit's a good food, but in today's environment it's actually becoming detrimental because it's too yin. It's adding on top of our problems with sugar and our expanded kind of ways of thinking and our expanded kind of cellular level problems. So that's really probably the main thing people need to understand when healing EMF sensitivity and healing anything, is that we live in a very positive, yin, watery, expanded a stressful environment, and we need to kind of do the opposite. And that's why a lot of things that used to be good 100 years ago are not actually working too well today, and that's why it's so precise to actually kick the EMF problem. And another problem, the fifth problem that I find, is that people will just use supplements randomly. They'll do random supplementation. They'll listen to something on the internet and they'll think they'll need this, or they'll listen to something on the internet and they'll think they'll need that. They'll speak to one person, they'll speak to another person, and they get the completely wrong supplementation. You know, a very common thing is zinc, and you know, if you understand anything about copper imbalance, you'll realise that zinc is an important thing to input into the body, because it balances out copper. However, if you're in a certain pattern, if you're in a certain mineral pattern, actually having more zinc is going to make things worse. You know, so that's another issue people have, is they'll just take supplements based on no scientific evidence, and it causes problems. Now, the way that we do it is we use mineral testing, so we see the minerals you've got in your body, and we can see exactly what supplements you need at that specific time in order to heal the body at that specific time, and then in a few months' time we do another one and we can rearrange it and stuff. So this is what's a little bit different to a lot of holistic healers or dietitians, is that they'll see symptoms and they'll give supplements based on symptoms, and when in reality you don't actually know what's going on a biochemical level. A prime example of that, for anyone that understands what we do in nutritional balancing, we use hair mineral analysis. There are two patterns on hair analysis. One pattern is called a 4 laws pattern, one pattern is called a 3 laws pattern. If you speak to someone in 4 laws and 3 laws and you ask their symptoms, they'll be extremely similar. And if you put them two people into a nutritionist's office, they'll probably get the same advice and the same supplementation. However, if you give the supplementation and advice to the person in 3 laws and you duplicate that to someone in 4 laws, the 4 laws person is going to have a real serious problem. So that's something that's very key to nutritional balancing, and something that you need to be aware of in general, that you need some sort of testing involved to see exactly what your body needs, and don't base it on what other people say necessarily. Alright guys, well, hope that helps you out a lot. If you want to get in touch, my email's in the description. Send me an email, lewis@deephealingspace.com. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all soon.